They are cowards. They are cowards. The people, even the people who speak up for him, are cowards because they don't even have the conviction. Fines are like flickering lights in the Republican. Fines are like flickering. Fines are like flickering lights in the Republican Party. Sometimes you see it, and just as soon as you see it, it goes away. All this is about. Come on. So I'm gonna all that screaming, all that hot screaming. I'm just gonna talk to you and say this.
Now, what?
No, it's a bastardization.
What's missing from this? What's missing from this fund is common sense.
And before the election, when they said that the pardons would not go to violent people as well, and then the first day, all of them got pardons.
I just had to keep
700 charges. These are the worst of the worst. These are people who went to the Capitol with the wait.
They're not all bad. They were not all bad.
I'm going
75, 76, 77, 78-year-old woman.
Stay at home.
Stay home.
Whoa. What happened in a free country?
Stay home.
It was a free country when they decided to vote.
No freedom of speech, you can't walk in the Capitol.
You can't walk in the Capitol.
What's good, everyone? Welcome back to Clear Record. So today we're getting into something that's been blowing up, Trump's so-called anti-weaponization fund, a nearly $2 billion payout that was supposed to sail through Congress and instead hit a wall, even from Republicans in his own party. And the number itself, $1.776 billion. Yeah, that's not a coincidence. We're going to get into all of it. Who's pushing back, who's folding, and why this whole thing feels less like policy and more like a loyalty test. There's a lot going on under the surface here that most people are glossing over. So stick with me through this one, because at the end, I'm going to give you my actual take on what I think is really happening. And it might not be what you expect.
Tonight, is President Trump losing his tight grip on Republican lawmakers? His crusade against GOP candidates who defied him has certainly been effective. But as for the ones currently working in the Senate chamber, it appears support is slipping.
There is some backlash among Senate Republicans to some of the other priorities, the ballroom and the anti-weaponization fund. You clearly still have a strong hold on the Republican Party. Your candidates did very well this week during the primaries. But are you losing control of the Senate, sir? Are you losing control of the Senate Republicans?
I don't know. I really don't know. I can tell you, I only do what's right.
Republican senators speaking out against funding for his billion-dollar ballroom. The Senate parliamentarian ultimately sinking that, and his $1.8 billion fund to compensate victims of alleged weaponized prosecution was so unpopular, it derailed Republicans' plans to pass a major immigration enforcement package. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche was on the Hill today to defend that fund to lawmakers, but that didn't go over well. A source telling CNN hardly anyone defended the fund in that closed-door meeting, and Blanche faced stiff resistance. Senator Ron Johnson telling CNN's Manu Raju a colleague called the fund a, quote, galactic blunder. Johnson agreed with that assessment, and he wasn't the only one. Listen to this.
I do not support the weaponization fund as it has been described.
I just don't know how this puppy dog will work. I'm not sure where the money's coming from. I'm not sure who's going to decide. I don't know anything about anything.
We need more information on it. I mean, we discussed it yesterday, but that's why it's coming back, is we need more information.
These people don't deserve restitution. Many of them deserve to be in prison. But this is, this is just stupid on stilts.
Do you think you have colleagues that share the same concerns that you're expressing?
Yeah, they do, and they need to speak up. I mean, this is beyond the pale. This is not good for my colleagues. There's no one positive thing that could be spun out of this between now and November. This is bad policy, it's bad timing, and it's bad politics.
We're joined now by tonight's guests at the table. Interesting, too, hearing from Senate Majority Leader John Thune, who drew the line from what's happening politically with President Trump going after some of these sitting senators and endorsing others in their primaries, somebody like Bill Cassidy, John Cornyn, and what we're seeing play out in the Senate. Ben, let's start with you. Do you think he's losing some of the very tight grip he's had for a very long time?
I think he's lost people he didn't endorse, which is, welcome to politics. And I think he's trying to make sure he's got a better team moving into the next 2 years of his term. I think that's the reason why he decided to, for example, endorse Ken Paxton in Texas, where I'm from, and to say, look, guys that aren't really fighting hard right now, who are establishment, I'm not going to back you. Cassidy in Louisiana is the same example of that. He wants an upgrade there. And I think proof that he's making the right choice is the fact that these guys, as soon as they knew they were out, they're like, I don't like you. It's personal. And by golly, I'm giving you nothing until the day I leave here. It's spoiled milk. It is what it is, but they'll be gone in January. So I think the president's making the right decision.
But until then, they still have power in the Senate.
Yeah, I mean, they do. They have a lot of power. But I also think the president's playing the long game. He understands that he wasn't going to get as much of his agenda done if you have people behind the scenes that are fighting against you in your own party. He dealt with that for 4 years when he was in office the first time. And I think that's why he's now way more outspoken on this, saying, I'm finding teammates who understand what we're doing with America First agenda. That's who I'm going to endorse. That's who I'm going to fight for. And by the way, the Republican Party said yes to all of those candidates from the president this last week. They said, we trust you, we like your agenda, and we're going to send those people to Washington. And incumbents who had an insane amount of money come in. Cornyn's a great example of this. The amount of money they wasted in D.C. with the elites there to try to save him, it's been a disaster. He won't be going back to Washington, D.C., and I think he even knows it.
Look, it's a Shakespearean story, like from the famous line from Hamlet, he's being hoisted on his own petard. He was so eager to punish them for even the most minor deviations from loyalty to him that he has made them all angry. Yes, I agree. I would like for them not to just show courage and conviction when they're on their way out the door. I want them to show courage and conviction when they're in the room, when they're on their way into the door. But it seems like, spines are like flickering lights in the Republican. Spines are like flickering.
That's not
spines are like flickering lights in the Republican Party. Sometimes you see it, and just as soon as you see it, it goes away. I remember these same Republicans standing up after J6 and saying, oh, this is a horrible day. This is a horrible thing. And some of this blame lays at the feet of the president. And then for the next 4 years, they caught amnesia, right? Because they don't believe, there's no conviction. The spine melted and everybody fell in line.
Dude, that would be you guys saying Joe Biden was a good candidate. If you want to talk about falling in line, no, it's fine. You guys told us that Joe Biden was like sane and mentally competent when he clearly wasn't, and lied to the American people and then covered up the incompetence. So don't lecture me about moral clarity here from a party.
Melting was
Joe Biden was a disaster, and you guys covered it up and looked in the cameras. All of the Democrats said, he runs laps around me. He's on his A game. He's so good at this. And then you want to sit here and say that, man, I wish these Republicans would send him to Trump.
I don't know what all this is about. Come on. So I'm going to, all that screaming, all that hospice screaming, I'm just going to talk to you and say this.
Hospice
screaming. The spines disappeared.
Of Democrats.
The spines disappeared, and he doesn't want to acknowledge that.
You guys say Joe Biden is sane.
Cowards. They are cowards. The people, even the people who speak up for him, are cowards because they don't even have the conviction.
Actually, I would actually argue the opposite with the topic at hand, which is this $2 billion fund. Is that I think Trump should remember that there's still fiscal conservatives among some of the lawmakers in Congress, and so when they look at a $1.8 billion price tag, they do cringe. But I think what's missing from that discourse about this fund is the fact that there's an existing mechanism for it. It's called the Judgment Fund. The Founding Fathers even used it during the early days of the Republic. Basically, if someone is victorious in a lawsuit against the federal government, there has to be a fund to pay them out a settlement. And so what this anti-weaponization fund that the left is fear-mongering about right now is a derivation of that existing mechanism. Now, what...
No, it's a bastardization of it.
What's missing from this fund is common sense.
Where are the fiscal conservatives when they were blowing the deficit with this big, beautiful bill that was going to add trillions of dollars to the deficit? So where are they then? I just need to figure out how this works out for you.
Well, the opportunity cost there was, the 2017 tax cuts actually generated real wage increases for many Americans, household income growth, and so that was what was going to be earned at the end of passing.
Yes, it also cost the Treasury $1.5 trillion in lost revenue.
And it also generated a lot of gains for the average American.
What was the price tag on it?
Who are the average Americans who got it? Because hundreds of thousands of Americans right now can't afford to live. So the big case here for them is that they cannot afford to pay their bills.
Are you saying you're against no tax on tips and no tax on overtime?
I'm saying Americans can't afford their bills. They're
I'm saying that's why we did that.
Affordability is a problem.
That is not why you did that. That is not
They're also cutting funds to rural hospitals. People cannot afford health care.
Hang on. Terry, I want to get to you, and I
got a little fact check. The Judgment Fund was de minimis. Until the 1950s, there had to be a vote of Congress for every dime that was spent out of the Treasury. They then enlarged that judgment fund. Obama used it in an even bigger way, and this is a complete bastardization of it. It is not an early American notion that the president can just spend money without congressional approval.
I agree there needs to be congressional approval, but it does stem from something that already exists.
Let's be clear about one thing about the fund. Number one, it's not going to pass right now the way it is.
Good.
There's a lot of
Senate
Republicans, some that I've talked to, that have said it is going to be changed if it's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's the reason why it didn't happen over the weekend. So I do think this is part of how the sausage is made. Let's also be clear. If you are violent, you don't get money from this. If you are violent, and the Trump administration doesn't, and the Trump family doesn't get anything from this. They get
hang on, I got to fact check that. Hang on, Ben, I got to fact check that because we don't know yet.
No, the DOJ put out a list and they said that they will not get a reward from this, and they cannot make claims to it.
No, not the Trump family part. I'm talking about if you were violent against police. What we have right now is that Todd Blanche told Paula Reed last night it's going to go to this committee, and that they're going to pick, the president is going to pick, and Congress will have approval of one of 5, and the president can fire any of them at any time. And those are the people who will decide.
Blanche was talking to members of Congress today and has made it very clear to them, if you are someone who is convicted and you are violent, okay,
do you remember before the election when they said that the pardons would not go to violent people as well? And then the first day, all of them got pardons?
I just had people
I go back to Congress. I go back to Congress.
Just ignores it.
But I go amnesia. Hold on. No, Congress. I go back.
Amnesia.
It's not amnesia. I just said, and I'll say it again, the Senate, those that are Republicans, have made it clear. The way that it stands, it will have 3 things clearly in it. Number 1, if you're violent, you don't get money. Number 2, the Trump family's already made this clear in the settlement. They will not get money, and they won't get a settlement, and they can't make claims.
They've stolen so much of it.
It's not just about
if you were wrongfully attacked, let's go with the Catholics for a second.
Wait.
Hold on, let's go with the Catholics for a second. I'm going to go with the Catholic example.
People went into the Capitol. 3,500, 700 charged. These are the worst of the worst. These are people who went to the Capitol.
Hold on, no pause. They're not all bad. They were not all bad.
I'm going 700.
We're going to 76-year-old women.
And the reason they were the worst of the worst is because they went there with the worst motive a citizen of a democracy can have. They went to silence the vote of the people as confirmed and affirmed by the 50 sovereign states of this country and by 60 courts of law, and they wanted to stop that.
If you're
they were the worst.
Let me ask you, hold on. If you're 75, 76, 77, 78-year-old woman.
Stay at home.
Whoa. What happened to being a free country?
Stay home. It was a free country when they decided to
So
vote.
no freedom of speech, no freedom of expression. You can't walk in the Capitol.
You can't walk in the Capitol. You are
the Democratic Party wants, hey, if you're stay home. Stay home if you're old.
All this yelling he's doing doesn't
Stay home if you're an old person. Democratic Party says you have no word in America and Washington.
You can't change the votes of those who have already cast.
If the door was open,
you are. This is
I'm asking you a very serious question.
No, you're not asking a serious question.
Yes, I am. Were there doors open on January 6th?
You're asking a ridiculous question.
Do not
and being ridiculous.
I'm going to call. Okay, I got to call it. You can't walk. You cannot just walk into the Capitol. I covered it. You have to go through a metal detector. That being said, we have much more to discuss, and it's going to be lively. So that's good. We have.
Look, let's be real about what's happening here. This $1.776 billion fund, and yes, that number is not an accident, that is not a coincidence, is being sold to us as some kind of justice mechanism. But when the people running it refuse to say, flat out, that the violent ones won't see a dime, come on, we've seen this exact playbook before. They said the same thing about the pardons. Don't worry, the violent ones won't be included. And then every single one of them got pardoned. So forgive me if I'm not buying the reassurances this time around. And the Republicans who are suddenly pushing back, I want to be clear about something. They're not doing this because they found their conscience. They're doing this because they personally got crossed. The moment someone gets targeted in their own primary, all of a sudden they care about policy. That's not courage. That's ego. Real courage would have been speaking up 2 years ago, a year ago, 6 months ago. Not now, when you're already on your way out and you've got nothing left to lose. Here's the thing, though. This was always going to happen. When a party hands over all of its power to one person out of fear, this is what you get. You don't get a party anymore. You get personality. And that personality now calls every shot picks every candidate, controls the whole machine. So yeah, some of them are upset about it now. But they built this. Every time they stayed quiet, every time they looked the other way, they handed over a little more. And now they want to act surprised. The fund itself being set at exactly $1.776 billion is something I genuinely can't get over. That is either the most brazen thing I've ever seen in politics or the dumbest. Either way, it tells you everything about who this is really for and what the whole thing is really about. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know if you think any of this pushback is real or if it disappears the second it becomes inconvenient.